We are shaking and baking today with innovation, insight. We've heard about the vision. I'm now going to bring on our next speakers. We're running a little bit over, so this part will be closer to 10 to 12 minutes. You're going to get so much out of it. So we want you to make sure you stick with us because we do have that surprise at the end. We have practitioners researching and working with organizations transforming learning and skilling. And I am pleased to introduce Dr. Stacy Boyle. She's a 25-year veteran of the learning and development field. Today, she's the VP of Solution Consulting here at EdCast. And she partners with learning and talent leaders to drive impact. She's also an author, like our CEO, Carl, a book called Be More Strategic in Business with Diana Thomas, who was our former McDonald's CLO. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Stacy Boyle to introduce her guest.
Thank you, Chip. Proud to be here today. So we heard Carl and G2 share their vision for the future of work. We heard Bhaskar and Kalpit share advances that power the future of work. So now let's talk to some learning veterans. So from one learning veteran to another learning veteran, I'd like to introduce you to Craig Weiss. Craig is the CEO of the Craig Weiss Group. He is a lead analyst for Find an LMS. So Craig, let's lay out some insights and dispel some myths in the short time we have together. How does that sound?
It sounds great, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, so here's our first question for you, Craig. Looking at the problems that businesses are solving today, what do you expect to change in the future, and how do you think businesses need to adapt to solve current business problems?
Well, first and foremost, they need to recognize that what they were doing in 2019 is gone. Secondly, they need to recognize that what happened in 2020, and as more and more people, that has to change. And 2021 is where you're talking about, I don't want to say fully post-COVID world, but because not everybody's going to be vaccinated. But I think what you're looking at is a duality. First, on a white collar workforce, because there is a difference between white collar and blue collar as it relates to corporate. On a white collar workforce, you're still going to have a lot of people working remote. So, you have to adapt to that. You have to identify, and find out. It's not just only also skill gaps, it's also technology gaps. What technology are they using at home? Because that's going to limit, if you're envisioning shoving, gigabyte videos, for example, on there, that's not going to happen. They're not going to see that. And learning is only as good as the content. It's a duality. And, if you're doing learning or training, it's only as good as the content. And if you can't see the content, I don't care what skills you're trying to get, that's not going to happen. So you need that duality. I believe the skills have to be, we rely too much on tech skills. Obviously, there's the technology issue, but we're talking about communication skills. We're talking about listening skills. We're talking about changing the way we think of our own insulated bubble. I think we feel too provincial as it relates, and we need to look upon it as we are in a global village, as Marshall McLuhan said in the 60s. And as a result, companies have to adapt regardless of the size. And, one skill doesn't fit all is how I put it. So, if your L&D is looking at skills related to, and they're only focused on compliance and safety, that has to change because now these people are going to be in the, at the workplace. If you're looking, compliance is required, so you don't have an option here. But you need to tap into people's skill sets to help them with personal and professional, which goes beyond just really what most people are doing today as it comes to skill building. It's all tied around job role, which is fine and dandy, but it also has to adapt to their own environment and what they're experiencing. And today that's not clearly happening.
So leading on to that point, Craig, why do you think this is the right time for organizations to look for new technology solutions, learning solutions? time to upskill or reevaluate their tech stack? Why is this the right time to do that?
Well, first and foremost, it's because of a change of times. I mean, you have to decide, um, I believe you have to focus on sort of a holistic approach, and you have to go with what I perceive, what I see as a hub, which means you have to look for a solution, a system that offers, I'm not a personal fan of upskilling because I think it's a misnomer. Again, heavily focused on one specific segment. You're not going to have, and this ties into the learning systems. If I've got somebody working on the platform, what's my upskilling options? I'm never going to get to work in that office. That companies don't do that. So it's just about I'm giving you skills to be a better person on the warehouse. That's not upskilling to me. And so when you look for a system, if you have that blue collar workforce, you need to have one that provides that duality holistic approach. Great for the white collar workforce, also can do some things with mobile. So that's kind of one of the hub pieces and what skills can be tapped into today. Maybe, if you're in an OJT, for example, and somebody's on the plant force, I would look at something that can do like video skills validation with digital coaching and scenario based. That's a great solution, and you can tap into a learning system. So a learning system has to be a one component. I think that if what I see as a trend concerning is that a lot of people in L&D and training and across the board, they want the system to do their job for them. It is a tool to enable you to be successful for your employees or customers and tap into all the capabilities. The data shows that people tend to use about 10% of their system. There's 90% of amazing there. And you have to tap into these things to achieve, I believe, both short and long-term success for retention and synthesis.
Yeah, that's great. And so, Craig, you just talked about some solutions that learning leaders and executives could look for in a learning solution. Are there any other solutions you think they should look for from a technology perspective?
Look, I mean, right now and going into 2022 and 2023, we're all driven around skills, which is nice. You need to look at it and tap into getting better metrics. You need segmentation of metrics. I see too many systems and they have views. Views tell me absolutely nothing. I always say a learning system is not a search engine. I want to know where people are going, how often they're going into that content. I'm more interested, create content that has a table of contents. You can do it in video, by the way, and get a system and have a system that can drill into those metrics. It's going to tell you, you want data that it tells you what's the most popular skills people are looking at. What is, if you have a system that offers this capability, I have mixed feelings about it, but it has, okay, I can look at just my company, or I can look at everybody that's on the system and see what their most popular skills are. Now, you can tie it to job roles. You can also tie it to personal, professional. You need better metrics. And I think, better segmentation is way better. Not everybody has a BI, which is a business intelligence tool. I think vendors that rely on people doing that, personally, I think is a mistake. And so the vendor has to do that because a lot of systems do similar things. So you have to look at what I call the 20% unique value proposition. Get a podcast module, put that in. You can do that and create podcasts just for your employees. If you're going to make a learner the creator, don't turn off what they can or can't do. Don't be the big brother here. You can't have a double-edged sword. And you have to remember that at the workforce, you could shut down the internet. Some companies did that. That's not happening anymore. So you have to find solutions that tap into social as well.
Yeah, that's interesting. When you talked about, using views as a measure, it makes me think of, that's a leading indicator to business impact, right? Technically, learning is a lagging metric. So it takes a minute, it takes a while to show that there's value and there's impact from a learning investment. And I agree, there's some metrics that are leading indicators, but overall learning is a lagging metric. So let me ask you this. Okay, because I'll go on analytics all day if we can do it. But let's switch gears a little bit. So let's talk about skills of the future. What does that mean? We hear that all over the place. What does it mean to you, skills of the future?
To me, skills of the future is wonderfully ambiguous. And I think a lot of people, I'll tell you what I think a lot of people do. They hear skills of the future and they focus way too much on technical skills, like everybody's going to be a data scientist. That's not the route to go. To me, skills of the future, again, gets back to personal skills, which we've lost. And I'm a big tech person. But we've lost that. We've lost the art of communication. We've lost the art of listening. We have lost the ability of a future skills in terms of working remotely and group communication. You know, we rely heavy on people, MS Teams and Slack and everything, and people can perceive tone differently than you may be intending it, right? It's like email. So you have to have these additional skills. I'm not saying you got to talk to them on the telephone here, but you have to have eye contact skills. You know, it's all sort of this universal thing. Group communication skills is not about, you're always going to have a leader, you're going to have a follower, and then you're going to have a bunch of people that may or may not be doing anything. You have to tap into that. You can't rely on skills about what makes a great leader. I think we all know CEOs that we've worked for or bosses and thought, how did they get to be the boss? They're idiots. They have the worst skills ever. So, you know, there's a disconnect there, and you have to tap into that. You have to create, to me, those skills of the future. We have to look at skills beyond, this whole conversation's around corporate. The skills I need in farming, we're not talking about. The skills I need in agricultural, we're not talking about. The skills that people need that are never going to school, are never going to, work in the corporate thing, or education. We're not talking about those skills. So those skills are as relevant. And yet, when I look at ed tech systems, for example, they don't focus on skills. There's no skill development there whatsoever. They don't have those skill capabilities, which is why if I'm at a university, I'm going to go and get a system that I think is better suited for corporate, whether it's an EdCast or some of your competitors or whatever. That's what I'm going to do, because it's not going to be in those ed tech systems. I mean, D2L has that capability, but other than that, they the corporate space, which is why you see that. And I think that's where you're going to go. You're going to need skills for people in emerging markets or in emerging things. If I'm, my whole life.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your perspective. No, like really, I could stay here all day and do this. This is definitely the highlight of my day. I want to thank you for your time today and for this great conversation. And for everyone out there, I'd like to make you aware that we are currently conducting the EdCast Learning Health Index. It's a benchmarking program, and I will put the link to the survey and to our website in the chat for you. So I'd like to invite all of you to participate in the EdCast Learning Health Index, and you will receive a custom report sometime this summer. So I look forward to communicating with you around the Learning Health Index. And Tiffany, over to you.